My father handed my sister the keys to the lake house on a Sunday afternoon in late September, while I was standing 3 feet away holding a grocery bag I'd just carried in from my car. The keys made a soft metallic clink as they landed in her palm, and she smiled the way people smile when they've been expecting something good and it finally arrives on schedule. "Enjoy it, sweetheart," Dad said, patting her shoulder. "You've earned this." I set the groceries on the counter. No one looked at me. My mother was rearranging flowers in a vase by the window, humming something light and forgetful. My sister Claire slipped the keys into her designer purse without a word of thanks, already scrolling through her phone, probably texting her husband about the news. I didn't ask what I'd earned. I already knew the answer. But before we get into the story, I would like you to click the subscribe button if you liked this video, and then comment what you think about this story. What would you have done in my place? My name is Rachel Carver. I'm 38 years old. I work as a forensic accountant for a mid-sized firm in Portland, which means I spend my days tracking money through mazes of shell companies and hidden transactions. I'm good at finding things people don't want found. Numbers don't lie to me. People do constantly, but numbers stay honest. The lake house sits on 42 acres in northern Maine, wrapped in pine and birch with a dock that stretches into water so still it looks like glass on windless mornings. My grandfather built it in 1967 with his own hands and a crew of men who worked for whiskey and honor. It's not a mansion. It's a 2-bedroom cabin with knotty pine walls, a stone fireplace and windows that frame the lake like paintings. But it's worth close to $1 million now because of the land, the shoreline, and the fact that properties like this don't come up for sale anymore. I grew up spending every summer there. So did Claire, though she complained about the mosquitoes and the lack of cell service until she was old enough to stay home alone. I learned to fish from that dock. I learned to read by the fireplace when rain hammered the roof. I learned that silence can be the most comfortable sound in the world when you're sitting on the porch at dusk with a mug of tea and nothing to prove. When my grandfather died 8 years ago, he left the property to my father in his will. My grandmother had passed 2 years before that, and Dad was the only child. The inheritance was clean, simple, uncontested. Dad took ownership, paid the property taxes, kept the utilities running. He told us the house would stay in the family forever, that it was our legacy, that we'd pass it down to our own children someday. Claire has 2 kids. I don't have any. I'm not married. I dated someone for 4 years who didn't want children, and by the time we broke up, I'd stopped thinking about it as something I was supposed to want. My parents never said it outright, but I could feel the weight of their disappointment every time Claire posted photos of her daughters on social media, and my mother would show me her phone with a smile that was just a little too bright. "Isn't Emma getting so big?" she'd say. "She is," I'd agree. And then the conversation would move on to something else. Something safer. Something that didn't involve my empty house or my quiet weekends or the fact that I'd chosen a life they didn't understand. The pattern started small. It always does. Claire needed help with a down payment on her first house. I was doing well at work, had savings, didn't mind helping family. I gave her $20,000. She promised to pay me back. She never did. When I brought it up once, gently, over coffee, she looked at me like I'd insulted her. "I thought that was a gift," she said. "I told you it was a loan." "Well, I guess I misunderstood." That was the end of the conversation. My parents never asked me about it. I stopped bringing it up. A few years later, Claire's husband lost his job. They had 2 kids by then, and a mortgage they couldn't cover. Dad called me, his voice careful, measured. The way it got when he was about to ask for something he knew was unreasonable. "Your sister needs help," he said. "How much?" $15,000. Just for 6 months, until Mark finds something new. I sent the money. Mark found a new job 3 months later. I never saw a dollar of it returned. When I asked Claire about it, she said they'd had unexpected expenses with the kids' school. My mother told me I should be more understanding, that family helps family, that I didn't have children so I couldn't possibly understand the financial strain. I stopped asking. The requests kept coming. Small ones mostly. A few hundred here for car repairs, 1,000 there for medical bills. Claire's dishwasher broke. Claire's roof needed fixing. Claire's youngest needed braces. I paid for all of it, not because I wanted to, but because saying no felt like stepping outside a role I'd been assigned before I was old enough to refuse it. I was the responsible one, the one with savings, the one who didn't need things because I didn't have anyone depending on me. 3 years ago, my father had a health scare. A minor heart attack, manageable, nothing catastrophic. But it scared him. He started talking about legacy, about making sure things were in order, about not leaving a mess for us to clean up. He said he was updating his will. He said he wanted to make sure both his daughters were taken care of. I asked him once during one of his recovery visits what he planned to do with the lake house. "It'll go to both of you," he said. "Equal shares." That seemed fair. I didn't question it. But then Claire started dropping hints. Little comments about how much the house meant to her, how her kids loved it there, how she wanted them to have the same memories we had. She talked about taking them there every summer, about teaching Emma to fish the way Grandpa taught us. My mother would nod along, smiling, saying how wonderful it was that Claire wanted to keep the family traditions alive. No one asked if I wanted the same thing. No one asked if I had plans. I spent 2 weeks there every August, alone, reading and hiking and watching the water. It was the only place where I felt like I could breathe without someone measuring my worth by what I'd failed to become. When Dad handed Claire the keys that Sunday, I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just a recognition of something I'd been avoiding for years. I wasn't part of the equation. I never had been. I was the bank, the backup plan, the person who made things possible for other people and then disappeared when the gratitude ran out. I drove home that evening in silence. My house is small, a 2-bedroom bungalow with a garden I actually tend, in a quiet neighborhood where people nod when they see you but don't ask questions. I parked in the driveway, sat in the car for 10 minutes, and let the weight of the day press down on me until I couldn't ignore it anymore. Then I went inside, opened my laptop, and logged into the county property records database. It took me less than 5 minutes to find what I was looking for. The lake house property was listed under one name. Mine, Rachel Elizabeth Carver, sole owner. The transfer had been recorded 3 years ago, shortly after my grandfather's will went through probate. The deed was clear, legal, notarized. My father's name didn't appear anywhere on the current title. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. 3 years ago, right around the time Dad said he was updating his will, right around the time I'd quietly paid off the remaining property taxes that had gone delinquent under my father's ownership. He'd called me in a panic, said the county was threatening a lien, asked if I could cover it. I did. $12,000, paid in full. What I didn't realize at the time was that the payment included a provision. A transfer of ownership signed by my father, executed as part of the settlement to clear the debt. He must have been so focused on avoiding the embarrassment of a lien that he'd agreed to the terms without reading them. Or maybe he'd read them and assumed it didn't matter because he planned to transfer the house to both of us eventually anyway. Either way, the result was the same. I owned it. Completely. Solely. Without restriction. I printed the deed. I put it in a folder. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. The next weekend, Claire posted photos from the lake house. Her daughters were on the dock, holding fishing poles, laughing. The caption read, "Making memories at our family's forever home. So grateful." Our family's forever home. She'd already claimed it. She'd moved in mentally, emotionally, publicly. The comments piled up underneath. Friends congratulating her. My mother adding a heart emoji. My father liking the post. I scrolled past it without reacting. A week later, Claire called me. "Hey," she said, voice bright and casual. "I was thinking about doing some updates to the lake house. New dock, maybe some landscaping. I wanted to run it by you first, since You know, it's technically still in Dad's name. Is it? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Well, yeah. I mean, he gave me the keys, but the official transfer hasn't happened yet. He said it's just paperwork. You know how he is. I do know how he is. So anyway, she continued, not catching the edge in my voice, I was wondering if you'd be willing to chip in. The dock is falling apart and it's kind of a safety issue with the kids. I figured we could split it 50-50. How much? Contractor quoted 28,000. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence stretch just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Rachel? I'll think about it, I said. Oh, okay. Well, let me know soon because I want to get it done before next summer. I hung up and stared at the deed sitting on my desk. $28,000. For a dock. On property she didn't own. Property I'd paid to preserve. Property my father had given away without telling me. That was the moment I decided. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to confront. I wasn't going to send angry texts or demand apologies or try to explain to people who'd spent decades not listening to me. I was going to let the paperwork do the talking. The following Monday, I called a real estate attorney named Catherine Park. I'd worked with her firm on a few cases, and I knew she was sharp, thorough, and expensive. I explained the situation calmly, clinically, the way I'd explain a financial discrepancy to a client. I own a property. My family believes someone else owns it. I want to formalize my ownership and establish clear boundaries before they make costly improvements to property they don't have rights to. Catherine didn't blink. Do you want to sell it? She asked. No. Do you want to rent it to them? No. Do you want them to have any access to it? I thought about that. I thought about every loan I'd given that was never repaid, every favor I'd done that was never acknowledged, every time I'd been treated like a resource instead of a person. No, I said. I want them off the property entirely. She nodded. Then we'll need to send a formal notice, trespass warning, followed by a quiet title action if they resist. It'll take a few weeks to prepare, but once it's filed, they'll have no legal standing. How much will this cost me? 5,000, give or take. I thought about the 20,000 I'd given Claire for her house, the 15,000 for her husband's job loss, the 12,000 I'd paid to save the lake house from a lien. Do it, I said. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived. I knew the exact moment Claire received it because my phone started ringing at 10:47 on a Thursday morning. I was in a meeting, so I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Then my mother called, then my father. By lunchtime, I had 6 missed calls and a string of text messages ranging from confused to furious. I waited until I got home that evening to read them. Claire, what the hell is this letter? You're suing us. Mom, Rachel, please call me. There's been some kind of mistake. Dad, we need to talk. This is unacceptable. Claire again, you can't do this. That house belongs to the family. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat down at my kitchen table and called Catherine. They received it, I said. Good. Now we wait. If they attempt to enter the property after the date specified in the notice, we file for injunctive relief. If they try to claim ownership, we proceed with the quiet title action. Either way, you're protected. What if they try to contest the deed? They can try. But the transfer was legal, recorded, and executed as part of a tax settlement. Unless they can prove fraud, which they can't, they have no case. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called my father. He answered on the first ring. Rachel, what the hell is going on? Hi, Dad. Don't hi-dad me. Claire is hysterical. Your mother is beside herself. You sent us a letter saying we're trespassing on our own property? It's not your property. Like hell it's not. That house has been in this family for 3 years ago, I interrupted, voice calm and even. You signed over the deed to me as part of a tax settlement. You were behind on property taxes. The county was going to file a lien. I paid the $12,000 you owed, and in exchange, you transferred ownership to me. It's all on record. I have the paperwork. Silence. Dad? I don't remember signing anything like that. You signed it. It's notarized. It's been recorded with the county for 3 years. That wasn't supposed to be permanent. That was just to clear the debt. That's not how property transfers work. His voice rose. You tricked me. I paid your debt. You signed the documents. That's not trickery. That's a transaction. Rachel, this is insane. That house is supposed to go to both of you. Why? The question seemed to catch him off guard. What do you mean, why? Why is it supposed to go to both of us? I'm the one who saved it from foreclosure. I'm the one who's been paying for the upkeep. Claire hasn't contributed a single dollar to that property in 8 years, but she's already planning $28,000 in renovations she expected me to split with her. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter. Another silence, longer this time. You're really going to do this, he said. It wasn't a question. The property is mine. If Claire wants to use it, she can rent it from me. Market rate. Or she can find another lake house. You're being vindictive. I'm being clear. Your mother is going to be devastated. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you gave Claire the keys to a house I own. I hung up before he could respond. The fallout was immediate and predictable. My mother left me a voicemail, her voice shaking, saying she didn't understand how I could be so cruel. Claire sent me a long, rambling text about how I was destroying the family, how her daughters would never forgive me, how I was turning into a bitter, selfish person who couldn't stand to see anyone else happy. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I drove to the lake house. It was early November. The leaves had turned and fallen, leaving the trees bare against a grey sky. The air smelled like wood smoke and cold water. I parked in the gravel driveway, walked up the steps to the porch, and used my own key to unlock the door. Inside, everything was exactly as I remembered. The stone fireplace, the worn couch, the knotty pine walls. Claire had left a few things behind, a pair of her daughter's shoes by the door, a blanket draped over the armchair, a half-empty bottle of wine on the kitchen counter. I gathered them carefully, put them in a box, and set the box outside on the porch. Then I changed the locks. I spent the weekend there, alone. I lit a fire. I made soup. I sat on the dock with a blanket wrapped around my shoulders and watched the water turn silver under the late afternoon light. It was the first time in years I'd felt completely at peace, completely certain I was exactly where I was supposed to be. On Monday, Catherine called to tell me Claire had tried to contact her directly, demanding she drop the case. Catherine had politely declined and reminded her that any further communication needed to go through legal channels. She's upset, Catherine said, but she has no standing. The deed is airtight. Good. Are you prepared for this to get worse before it gets better? I've been prepared my whole life. Thanksgiving came and went. I wasn't invited to my parents' house. Claire posted photos of the holiday dinner, the table crowded with family and friends, everyone smiling. The absence of my face in those photos was conspicuous, pointed. A few relatives reached out to me privately, asking what happened, saying they'd heard different versions of the story. I didn't explain. I just said it was complicated and left it at that. By December, the legal proceedings were moving forward. Claire's attorney had attempted to challenge the deed transfer, arguing undue influence, but Catherine had shut it down quickly with the documented tax records and my father's signature. There was no ambiguity. The property was mine. My father called me once more a few days before Christmas. Your mother wants to know if you'll come for Christmas dinner, he said. His voice was flat, defeated. Will Claire be there? Of course she'll be there. She's family. Then no. Rachel, please. This has gone on long enough. Can't we just what, Dad? Pretend it didn't happen? Pretend you didn't give away something that wasn't yours to give? Pretend I don't matter unless I'm paying for something? That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair, but it's accurate. He didn't argue. He just sighed. A long, tired sound, and said, I hope you know what you're doing. I do. I spent Christmas alone at the lake house. I brought a small tree, decorated it with lights I found in the closet, and drank hot chocolate by the fire. It was the best Christmas I'd had in years. In January, the quiet title action was finalised. The court affirmed my sole ownership of the property. Claire was formally barred from entering without my permission. My father's name was removed from any associated records. The deed was updated, recorded, and sealed. Catherine sent me a congratulatory email. It's done. The property is yours, free and clear, with no encumbrances. I printed the final decree and put it in the same folder as the original deed. I didn't gloat. I didn't send a message to my family announcing my victory. I just let it be. The silence that followed was louder than any argument could have been. Claire blocked me on social media. My mother stopped calling. My father sent one last email, short and formal, saying he respected my decision but couldn't support it. He hoped someday I'd realise what I'd sacrificed for pride. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. What I'd sacrificed wasn't pride. It was the pretense that love and obligation were the same thing. I'd spent decades confusing the two, giving money and time and energy because I thought that's what family meant. But family isn't supposed to be a transaction. It's not supposed to be conditional. And the moment I stopped paying, the moment I stopped being useful, they stopped pretending I mattered. The lake house is still mine. I spend my summers there, and long weekends in the fall when the air turns crisp and the loons call across the water. I've made small improvements over the years: a new dock, better insulation, solar panels on the roof. I've turned it into exactly what I always wanted it to be: a place that's mine, completely, without apology or compromise. Sometimes I think about my grandfather building this place with his own hands, plank by plank, nail by nail. I think about the years he spent here, the memories he made, the legacy he thought he was leaving behind. I like to believe he'd understand what I did. Not because I took something from my sister, but because I refused to let someone take something from me. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I miss my family, if I wish things had gone differently. The answer is no. I don't miss being invisible. I don't miss being useful. I don't miss the version of myself that believed silence was the same as peace. What I have now is actual peace, the kind that comes from knowing exactly where you stand and refusing to apologize for it. I own the lake house. I own the land. I own the silence. And that silence, finally, is mine. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and like my video if you like the story. See you in the next one.